Shana Tova. It is very inconvenient, but also not a coincidence that both the Jewish holidays and the start of school happen every year around the same time. That's because this is when the seasons change. The Jewish holidays are based on the Israeli climate, which is very much like here. Instead of 4 seasons, we have 2, rainy and dry. The beginning of the rainy season is full of worry. Will it be a year of healthy rain, or a year of drought, or of damaging floods? To cope with that uncertainty, our ancestors chose to come together and pray. Because change can be hard, even predictable change like seasons turning over. Unpredictable changes, much harder. September actually isn't really the beginning of the rainy season anymore. More often than not, we have a fire season to contend with before any moisture arrives. We never know where the fires will hit or just how devastating they will be. And then layered on top of all of the regular and irregular changes that we are going through together come the personal changes in our individual lives. Any first year students in the room? Any new faculty? New staff? I'm starting a new job, and I'm feeling the unease that, for me, comes with any period of change. It's unease coupled with excitement. In fact, for me, those two emotions are just the positive and negative face of movement. I'm remembering back to my first big transition, leaving my parents' home after high school. I spent a gap year at a yeshiva program in Israel. I was all jitters of excitement in the lead up to my departure, reading the course catalog aloud at dinner, shopping for a raincoat for the Jerusalem winter. It wasn't until I had hugged everyone goodbye at the airport and settled into my seat on the airplane that out of nowhere, this enormous sadness bloomed inside me and I started crying. I was shocked. I didn't know that I would be sad also as part of all this. 30 years later, my oldest child graduated high school during the pandemic. And because of the pandemic, parents were not allowed on his college campus. So his departure from home was much like mine, alone on an airplane. A few days before he left, I was driving by myself on El Camino when I felt that huge bubble of tears pushing up inside. But I wasn't surprised by it this time. I knew by now that even changes that I work for and hope for are also hard for me. So I just pulled over for a few minutes and let myself sob. Then I wiped my eyes and drove home to continue helping my son with his packing. So, for all the new students in the room, I know your experiences are not going to be the same as mine. Some of you are just so relieved to be here. Some of you may be feeling sad, but for completely different reasons than I was. If you want to share, I would love to hear what's going on for you. My office will be in Old Union. Come find me. Your experiences will also be different from mine because the times have changed. The future of our country and our planet has become much scarier than it ever has been in my lifetime. We are living on a foundation of uncertainty, and that shaky foundation makes it harder to launch through all the normal, healthy changes in our lives. How do we cope with our fear, with the enormity of our sorrow? Every one of us has contributed to climate change and to the threats to our democracy. How do we prevent that awareness from growing into crippling shame, dread, or depression? I know my first instinct when I think about these things is often to open the refrigerator. That's a coping mechanism that's as old as time. There's a reason we dip apples in honey as we face down the impending rainy season. But honey or chocolate only goes so far in calming the amygdala, and too much will leave you with a bellyache. Our tradition offers much more than that. Our ancestors were no strangers to existential fear, and they gave to us tools to remain both steady and compassionate. Rosh Hashanah is known as Yom Hadin, the Day of Judgment. There's no hiding or denying the changes we face. We stand as if in a courtroom, encouraged to feel the full emotional impact. But, and this is critical, we do not stand there alone. Now, if this were an hour-long class, I would have you all pull out your prayer books and study its themes together. But for a sermon, I have learned that real-life stories are the most effective way to communicate the essence of the prayers. So I'm going to share with you a story that at first may not seem to have anything to do with the high holidays. I hope by the end you will see that the transitions described in this story have everything to do with the high holidays. And I want you to know every detail I'm about to share is true, except that I'm changing most of the names. Jasmine Smith grew up in some of the roughest neighborhoods of San Francisco. Her father was murdered when she was a little girl. Her mother was a heroin addict. With few positive role models, Jasmine made bad choices in her adult relationships. But when her first son, Wayne, was born, something flipped inside of her. She was not going to let this beautiful, perfect child grow up in the chaos that she did. She devoted herself to raising Wayne and then his brother. As a single mother, she started her own business hauling trucks and earned enough to keep them all fed. She pushed her boys to excel in sports and school, and they did. When Jasmine turned her life around, she changed the entire family. Her mother had contracted both AIDS and hepatitis, and Jasmine took over her care. Jasmine's sister, Roxanne, leaned on her too, and Jasmine's niece, Charisma, looked to her as a role model. Wayne grew up and got a scholarship to go to university. He came home for winter break with a remote control boat as a present for his little brother. On Christmas Day, the two of them went down to the lake to try it out. But the boat flipped over and they couldn't get it back. So Wayne, confident, strong, athletic, kicked off his shoes and jumped into the water to rescue the boat. The water was too cold. He passed out and never resurfaced. Losing her son. This is the kind of horrific, unpredictable change that tears apart any parent's soul. But Jasmine had to cope with this change without a foundation to support her. She did not learn good coping strategies as a child, and she did not have access to mental health care as an adult. Soon, like her mother, she turned to drugs. And then she got pulled into dealing drugs to feed her habit. But even at her lowest moment, she did not neglect her mother or her surviving son. With everything falling apart inside, she clung to that sense of responsibility. She finally got arrested, and that may have saved her life because she was required to enroll in a 12-step program, and she welcomed that program as a gift. She got clean. She became a regular volunteer at her church. She enrolled in community college and became a straight A student. She hoped to become a drug rehab counselor someday. And I wish the story ended here. But in U.S. criminal courts, successful completion of a 12-step program doesn't count as paying off your debts to society. Jasmine still had to face sentencing, and the probation board was recommending 27 months in prison. Over 2 years. What would happen to her mother, her son, her own dreams of completing college while she was locked away? And that is how my dear friend, Rebecca Grace, her real name, came to know Jasmine. Rebecca runs a small nonprofit called Complete Picture that creates sentencing videos for clients of public defenders. Their caseloads are so enormous. On average, a public defender can give less than 10 minutes to each client. 10 minutes. Typically, the judge will learn nothing about the human being sitting before them except the cold facts of the crime. The judge would not know that Jasmine was a straight A student. He wouldn't know about her son's death or her nightmarish childhood. He wouldn't know about her capacity to turn her life around. Complete Picture would share all of this information in their video. Rebecca's first task when taking on a new case is to make a list of people she can interview. Jasmine immediately recommended her sister and was devastated when Roxanne refused to be interviewed. "You messed up your life. I don't want to be involved," she told her. From there, Jasmine was lost. Who will speak for me? I have no one. I am nothing. This is common. Nearly all of Rebecca's clients live in a void of self-esteem. They believe the world has given up on them. They feel abandoned and they have given up on themselves. But then Roxanne's daughter, Charisma, heard about the video project and volunteered. Telling the story of Wayne's death, Charisma broke down on camera. Her tear-choked words will never leave me. Quote, "We all fell apart. We all did. We all became self-destructive. We all made bad choices in that time, even I. That was so hard for us. I can only imagine what it was like for a mother to raise her son so well and to lose all of that in one fell swoop." Charisma was only the first to say yes. Jasmine's mother's doctor stated on camera that his patient would have died long ago if not for the care Jasmine gave her. One of Jasmine's college professors and the priest at her church both praised her. And her mother and her son both spoke words of gratitude and of pleading. The judge watched the video 3 times. When Jasmine took the stand at her sentencing hearing, he looked at her as if he knew her and he said, "You do not belong in prison." He told her how proud he was of her accomplishments and he set her free. Now, defendants who can afford hours and hours of a private law firm's time will not uncommonly get off like that. But clients of public defenders rarely get less than the probation board recommends, unless the defendant is also a client of Complete Picture. Their videos lift up the defendant's humanity, and the result is almost always a more humane sentence. Complete Picture's clients also have another very interesting success rate. None of their clients break the law again. They have so far a perfect record on recidivism. Why? Rebecca and I both have a theory. With only one exception in all of her years of video making, every one of her clients has confessed and repented on screen. The power of confronting and admitting your greatest failure is enormous. But even more powerful for a person who believes the world has abandoned them is to hear others speak on their behalf. When Charisma volunteered to speak for that video, Jasmine was saved. And now perhaps you are beginning to understand why I have shared this story with you. The climactic day of the high holidays is Yom Kippur, a day of public confession. But we do not confess alone. We stand together and like Charisma's lament, we declare, Asham knew, but God knew we all sinned. And before we can face Yom Kippur, we must have Rosh Hashanah to reassure ourselves that we have not been abandoned. We stand in the courtroom of God's judgment and recite over and over God's promises to remember us. For those of us who have a relationship with God, know that if there is one message that comes through loud and clear in the High Holiday Liturgy, it is this: God does not give up on us. None of us is alone. God is just waiting for us to come together to create enough of a sanctuary of human cooperation that her presence can descend and infuse the world with hope and possibility. And if you are a person for whom God feels like an outdated idea, then your responsibility is even greater, because that means that taking the first step is not enough, because there is no God waiting to rescue us. It is all on our shoulders, and we cannot afford to give up on ourselves. We cannot abandon each other. It is our job to make sure that no one is left alone, to see the humanity in each and every person, no matter who they are, no matter how they think, no matter what they've done, because change is upon us. And it is on us to come together to form a solid foundation from which to ride and guide the change. Shana Tova.